I come from a poor family, yeah. We ain't never had a lot, yeah. But the Lord been good to us, yeah. Now we riding on the top, yeah. I come from a poor family, yeah.
Welcome back to The Boat Guys, Builder of All Things podcast. Richie, good morning.
Good morning, Ray. Yeah.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Got our coffees here going on. Can you believe it's almost the end of June?
Man, June is closing up. It's really
2021?
fast. Yeah, 2021. We're about to be over the hump. This is summertime.
Yeah, people are coming out of the woodworks and
They definitely are, especially in the Midwest, where I'm from.
Yeah, I heard in Maui there was about 20,000 tourists.
Oh, wow, that is a lot.
And I've heard that the car rentals were kind of like
Hard to get.
super expensive. Yeah, they're like 5 times the price. That's what I've been hearing, but
My pops is coming out in December, and he said he already has his rental locked down, but he said it's super expensive.
Oh man, still.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, time's flying.
Yeah, it's crazy. You might have to borrow a company truck, maybe say some.
Yeah. Especially this podcast. This is episode 11, Rich.
Let's do it.
Man,
Episode
so good.
11.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Just such a blessing. So grateful to be here. Just have a opportunity, a platform where we could share about our faith and our business. So it's pretty cool.
For you listeners out there and viewers, thank you so much for joining us today and riding with us through our journey here in Builder of All Things. So, Richie, let's get into the first stream.
Let's do it.
First stream is going to be, are you religious, spiritual, or just faith-based?
Oh, dang. So am I religious, spiritual, or am I just faith-based? So what is the difference?
Right. We gotta differentiate those.
We gotta break those down. Well, I could just share what they are to me. I don't know if I'm the knower of all things. I'm definitely not the builder of all things. So that's all God. Give him the glory. But I'll share my perspective on what the three are, and then share where I fit in the midst of that. Religion, to me is like, it could be used as, a word that can define what you believe in, right? It also could be, I've heard it more of in a negative tone in my later years, just as something that it's a lot of rules, especially in Christianity, a lot of things changed when Jesus came.
Relate, yeah. Can relate to that rule-based.
Just understanding, religion, I think, what is the word? It's when something's habitual, right? It's religious. It's done all the time. There's a consistency. It becomes,
I like how you use habitual. That's a very good, a preconception, I guess. It's almost tied in together. It's like in the culture.
It's like if you do something religiously, right? You're doing it all the time. And so religion is something I think is a practice, right? That's how I perceive it anyway. It's something you practice. So am I religious? I would say, yeah. I mean, I should, hopefully, right? Hopefully. But when the negative tones come in about religion, I think it's when there's so many rules, and then people start using those to set a standard. I think that's where you gotta be real careful. Where none of us are perfect or can meet this perfection in a religious state or in something you believe in, being a certain person. So am I religious in that matter, or do I have a religion where I have to meet a certain standard? I can't, and I admit that. But I definitely want to practice what I can to be the best version of myself, but ultimately whatever I do in my faith, I'm not going to please God. And I think there's always that wrestle with our flesh, especially mine, that I'm always trying to please God. Like stories in the Bible of Cain and Abel is where it first started, right?
Yeah.
Cain and Abel, what happened with Adam and Eve. Gosh, let's take it to the beginning, Ray Dog. Let's go all the way back to Genesis, man.
The beginning.
Genesis
beginning. Really literally means the beginning. Yeah, right?
So let's take it back to the beginning with my G-paw, Adam. But, Adam and Eve, let's go through the story real quick if y'all don't know, is Adam and Eve. Eve, there was a tree in the middle of the garden that they were living in that God gave them this garden and said, hey, take care of this. This is yours. Steward it. I'll be here if you need me. I'm gonna come by every now and then. We'll have coffee. So, Adam and Eve are doing a thing, but he said, don't eat this one tree. I'm still sharing with you. It's the knowledge of good and evil, but I didn't build you to eat this because I don't want you to know the difference between these two because I made you good, right? So don't even touch this tree. And then we end up touching a tree. Eve dipped in and shared it with Adam, and then boom, both of them are, they're like recognized. All of a sudden, it's like they were gained the knowledge and the difference between good and evil. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Now I know what it's like to know the difference. What is good and what is bad. What is bad? What is bad is what's separated from God, what God is not attached to. And certain things is like, God didn't build us to look at ourselves like we do in the mirror. Mirrors are like, they're okay, and I get them, but God didn't build us to look in the mirror to check ourselves like, in a separation from him, right? So now we're looking at ourselves, and that's why I think he put that tree in the center, because now we just became self-centered, right? All of a sudden it's like, because our eyes were always on his creation and who created it. But all of a sudden when we ate this tree, this knowledge kicked in, like, wait, look at yourself. And then we look down, we're like, oh shucks, we're naked. Like we became self-centered, self-aware. Self-awareness kicked in and whatnot. And so looking at that, God noticed, like he knew, he's like, oh, hold on, somebody just ate, somebody has the knowledge of themselves, and I didn't build them to recognize themselves like that. They weren't created like that. So like he does his normal stroll, coming to join them for some coffee in the morning. They had coffee. I'm guaranteed they had coffee. They brewed it differently.
I would want to try the coffee. Sounds like the best.
I know, that Garden of Eden.
Garden of Eden.
Man, that dirt, that soil must produce the beans of all beans.
I'm pretty sure someone made Garden of Eden coffee. I mean, not trademark, but someone came up with it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. So, God came and he realized that they recognized themselves as naked. They hid, they were ashamed. So even like looking today, like all the animals of the earth, man, why do we wear clothes? Like, I'm really going on a tangent here, but it's like really like we're constantly dressing ourselves like they hid behind these leaves, because they were ashamed what they looked like because now they recognize themselves. But now look at like today, even to this day, we're still wearing clothes in shame. Like we won't say that's why, but really it is. It's like we still are covering ourselves to this day. And so make a long story short, they recognized who they were, but the only way, to truly cover their recognition of themselves was, by their disobedience, something had to cover them. And that's where Jesus came in. And he immediately gave them the solution. You guys need to cover yourselves, and there has to be a sacrifice. So they covered themselves with tunics of skin. Right there, boom, that showed something had to be sacrificed to get those skins, to cover them. So ultimately the covering became like a model of how to please him now. Because now, not that he's ashamed of our nakedness, but to cover, our disobedience. And so Abel recognized that. And Abel, Abel and Cain were the first two children of Adam and Eve. And Abel understood that covering had to take place. So he ends up sacrificing an animal while they're out and about, and a sacrifice to God because he understood that was something that pleased him. And then Cain was working, man. He's a worker. And this is as a contractor, a carpenter. I understand, like, you work all day, you put 8 hours in, you got cuts on your hands, you've been sweating, you changed out 2 shirts, your battery wasn't working at 2:00 and you had to go, for your power drill, and you're stressed out because you're trying to meet the demand of production, and you had to find a new way to do it, and you had to carry plywood all day, and then you got to deal with some of the workers. He's tired, man. And with the 8-hour construction day, and then you're in Hawaii where we got like hour and a half of traffic, and then you finally get home, you get this sense of like, and then, you come home to the family, and then, the wife is like, oh, how come you didn't, take out the trash this morning? Or why didn't you do this? And you're just like, there's this entitlement that kicks in, like, wait a minute, man, I've been working all day trying to provide, you don't even know what I went through, all the hard work.
People can relate. And
you're feeling it, right? And that was Cain. Cain was working all day, and he thought that would please God, but God was like, man, I'm so pleased with Abel. Cain was like, wait a minute, my name didn't come out your mouth. You're pleased with Abel. And, just looking at that is kind of like religion with me is, we can practice and keep doing all these things like a hard day of work. But ultimately, those are good And we want to do that because that's the heart of us wanting to, be more like him or fall in love with these things that are good and to practice them. But ultimately, we can't think this is the route to please God.
Yeah.
See, where I'm trying to bring this home is, we can't earn God's love. God's real love is covering us like Abel understood. And that's by Jesus, by accepting Jesus and what he did. That was our ultimate covering.
It's such a weird concept where, you think, because we live in this world where, good things produce, good works will produce like a good result, I guess. So, it's just weird that it kind of doesn't work that way with God's love.
Yeah, it isn't. It's as long as you got the jacket of Jesus, like he's pleased, and that's what's such a freedom for us. That doesn't mean just go out and do what you want, because then your heart, because the repentance is really like, man, we're hitting up some gospel today, man. So all of you just don't understand really what's going on. This is it. This is where our love is all tied in, is understanding what Jesus did and how he died was that final sacrifice to cover us, like God had to do with that tunic of skin of Adam and Eve, and understanding that pleases him. And the rest is just falling in love with what's good. And yeah, you're going to pursue good all for the rest of your days, but you're not going to meet the standard.
Oh, heck yeah. It's a process of sanctification.
But, I hate the things of sin, but I'm constantly gonna sin. When I say that, is I'm in a body that's sinful. It's already, we're gonna have to die to this body, but we're promised new bodies. So that's like a cool hope to have, that while I'm in this body, I'm gonna constantly be at war against it, but I'm not gonna meet this standard. So looking at religion, yes, I do fight to be religious in the sense of I want to do the things that, that I love, that God loves, and try to pursue those, but I'm not going to meet that standard of religion. Spiritual, I think I'm all three, man. Let's just, I think I'll be religious, spiritual, and faith-based. I don't think you can be one. I know what people are trying to ask is, you got even Christian is religious in a lot of sense of a lot of rules they put out that, more man-made or taken from the Bible from back in the day that no longer really exist. A good example is like in Corinthians chapter 11, the covering of heads of women was a religious kind of a rule that man put in place in the 400s, and it just basically they were to cover themselves to show where they were under man, and so they're asking, are we, women aren't covering their heads no more, they need to still cover their heads when they come into church. And Paul is basically just telling them, the Corinthians, that it is a man-made rule. No, you don't have to cover your head if you understand the true covering is Jesus. That's what the whole reason God had them cover their heads in the first place, is just to understand the bigger picture. Now that he's revealed himself, you don't actually have to cover your head no more. And I remember I used to go to a Catholic church, and when I was 19 years old, I was in a pew and I had my hat on backwards like I do right now.
Church clothes, Lecrae.
Just the church clothes, Lecrae. The priest, I think that's what they're called, actually walked off the stage all the way up to me in front of everybody and said, "Take off your hat." And I remember being 19, a little rebellious. And I remember I understood that God loved me with a hat or without a hat, So I basically was like, man, this is my moment to stand up for God. So I was like, I'm not taking off my hat. And he was like, well, if you don't take off your hat, I got to kick you out the church. Oh, man. And then I was like, well, I guess I will dismiss myself. So I walked out, and I remember sitting out on the stairs and still had my hat on backwards. And he came out after the service. He's like, hey, why wouldn't you just take off your hat? And I said, he said, why should I take off my hat? Like, well, what's your reason? And he was sharing with me that Corinthians 11, he said, you need to cover your head, or, men uncover their head and women cover their heads. And I'm like, nah, God loves me either way. So I went home, I started studying the scripture, and I realized where I was wrong was, I was correct in the fact that, God loves me either way.
Regardless,
but Paul was trying to tell the Corinthians at the time is, yes, you're correct. You really don't have to wear this, but don't offend don't offend man. It's better to just, wear the covering, and then your fellow person, keep the peace. You don't want to have somebody walk away with offense. Like, do what you can as your part to not have somebody have an offense. You can't control that at all times, but participate when you know you can. And so
I think generally we're still in the same era where it's bridging old, church with a new church. And so it's been the same, Richie, with my church, where, there were rules growing up, and I had that same attitude where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna wear a hat while I'm leading worship. Like, what's wrong with that? yeah. But then, like you mentioned, it's better to keep the peace on it. I totally understand that.
Yeah. So that was a thing where I had to grow up, and I think it would have been healthy for me to say, "Oh yeah, so sorry about that. No problem. Take off my hat." How easy would that have been?
I know.
I had nothing to prove, and ultimately, me leaving my hat on and proving God loves us no matter what wasn't going to edify anybody, really. It's so, that was a growing spurt. So as far as religion is concerned, I think it's important to, always think of the bigger picture. Where can you love, where can you not be offended? But God's gonna love you either way. Spirituality, that to me is just, I guess, when you talk to something that's not there. I don't know, that's how I think of it. Spirituality is like maybe when we're in our prayer modes and things like that, when we're worshiping to God. So I think some people see those as different, but I think, you need to understand the foundation, how it was fulfilled in religion, and then ultimately that will propel you to be spiritual and faith-based. So, awesome. I think those are important things. Yeah. Sorry, we went down to the beginning on that one, man. Appreciate it, Ray.
But just a heads up, guys, this doesn't only happen in the Catholic Church or the Christian Church. As you can see, it happened to both, but also organizations. I mean, it's just kind of like old era versus new era almost. So it's just not, one particular thing. But anyway, let's head down to the second stream.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So what areas contractors lose the most money? So we're gonna shift gears and talk about some business.
Business gear shift. Lose money. So I guess I'll speak hopefully on a general where other contractors can relate and homeowners can understand. But I think where we lose the most money is, at least for us anyway, is estimating. Going through estimating it could cost a lot of money, and what we've done, I'll share the things that we've done to kind of simplify that, where it's a benefit to the homeowner and for you as the contractor, and really minimizes the cost. But when the whole process of homeowners doing the right thing, go online, call a contractor, and you got to figure out what's the next step. Like, how do you get a cost? How do you understand? Because everything's about understanding what you can do, but understanding the cost involved, right? So they call somebody to come in, and as a contractor, we get a phone call, we talk to them for a good 30 minutes. We probably jot down the notes, schedule it in, probably a good 45 minutes of our time during a work day. And then, we go to the house. So probably a 30-minute drive, usually from, living where we live, is guaranteed going to be 30 minutes or more, possibly. Sometimes could be an hour, depending on what time you're going. Right. A lot of times the availability of homeowners is usually after work or during lunch or before work. So you got to go sometimes kind of in some funky hours. And then when you do finally get there, you spend a good hour, hopefully, just defining the scope, really looking around, measuring, taking notes. And then building up. And then you come back to the office, or you come back to your truck, or you go to your home to figure out the estimate as a contractor. And, you write down usually estimate, especially for like something, when you're doing a kitchen, a bathroom, some flooring and some things like that. A lot of electrical, plumbing to figure out, you got to look at your pictures back and forth. Sometimes those estimates could take about 2 or 3 hours, to really put it together, do your takeoff and get your costs. But then you got to put together a proposal or an estimate. So you do have a template you finally figured out how to put, and then you got to really define everything that's involved, and you really want to do it as soon as possible, because it starts, like, as time goes by, you start forgetting all the little, details, even though you have some good notes. So you put together the proposal, then you finally able to send it, and then you don't hear anything back for a couple days, maybe a week, or if you do even, but you finally touch base with them. They have some questions. You got to revise because the cost is a little too high. So make a long story short, I'm going through this little story, but ultimately we're looking at good, easy, sometimes a full 8 hours to 12 hours per estimate. Those costs can be between $500, $700 to $1,000 easily for small projects. So if you do like 10 of those a week, that kind of adds up. Like, how do you even fit that into your schedule to do other things? It's where you need to hire somebody. We talked about in the other podcast, but it's a lot of money lost if you go through that traditional process. I mean, you can really, but you think you have to do it, right? You have to, take the time to go through this because that's how you get work. So, you have to go there. So, you have to go through all this process. But I think losing money, it's lost. You can call it an investment because you're hoping to get a job. But ultimately, if you have window shoppers or people are just trying to be edified or educated on, what's going on, then you can easily waste 10 opportunities just for window shoppers, and there's nothing wrong with window shopping, but it does cost money, and that's where it gets a lost money. It's not a true interest. So my recommendation is really do your numbers and simplify the cost and find a way to present it over the phone before you start anything. So that's what we've done to simplify the cost. It helps the homeowner, it helps you, because if they have $5,000 and trying to do a $30,000 kitchen, you need to have a way to understand the scope of work. Generally, you don't need to know all the details, but generally, what are you doing? You could give them at least a range. Hey, this is a $25,000 to $40,000 kitchen easily. And if they have $5,000, they might not know any better. They don't know what the kitchen cost is. It's not like it's on a shelf somewhere saying, you can't really shop online for kitchen costs, so they got to go through this process. So, just understanding the cost, first of all, can really help not only filter out people, but just educate homeowners and help you just, what did you spend, 30 minutes on the phone versus, 8 to 12 hours times 10 a week. So just really doing your homework to find out how do you simplify your costs. Specialty contractor, so easy. Drywall guys, flooring guys, painting guys. Just try to figure out all your costs that you've done for projects and then figure out your cost per square foot and just ask them people, what's the square foot of your home? And you just give them a general cost. This is where it's generally going to be between, $12,000 to $18,000 to paint the interior of your home. I'm going to have to come out and do the measurements, but want to make sure you understand the cost first.
It's funny because I thought that estimating the law, where the loss was the, I guess, like misinformation that you give them, but it's actually like going the there.
Process.
The process. Yeah. So that's a good clarification. I didn't know the loss was there.
Yeah, the loss can be on the other side if you don't really, if you're not, if you don't know what you're doing. But ideally, you should be able to know your cost, understand your costs. And to all my contractors out there, especially specialty contractors, I would say, really study your data and understand your cost per square foot and linear foot and area, versus manpower hours and materials. Because that's a big variance. But when you start under your cost per square foot, you're sticking with a standard in the market, and there's a benefit for better reward. When you start getting larger projects. So I think it's just a healthy way to bid. And there's a lot of variances when you think, let's see, 5 guys for 6 days. What if one of those guys don't show up? What if one of them, had a bad week? And it's just too many variances there. So just looking at your history on the past year, just take those costs, and then being able to present those to homeowners on the phone, I think can really eliminate a lot of wasted time and money, and really help you be efficient, trying to be efficient in the estimating process.
So guys, try to understand that. If you don't know how, or if it's difficult, hire someone. Hire someone who knows how to do that data.
And I think there's probably 1,000 other ways that people would answer that question, but I think this is money that should not be wasted, because the standard is not to charge a homeowner for an estimate, right? So it's not like we've gone through that, trying to charge, because $75 to make up for the $750, and homeowners like, wait a minute, I can get 3 other bids for free. I ain't even gonna come to that's the standard. So how to protect yourself from the standard by simplifying it, but it being actually more efficient and bringing costs to the table early for homeowners, I think is a better solution.
Awesome. All right. Good info, guys. We're going to head down to our last stream, construction stream, which is, what do you think makes a good carpenter? Now, this is super broad, but what can you name me maybe like the 3 best qualities you see in a carpenter specifically?
So we're gonna go 3, the magic 3.
Magic 3, yeah, because this could be, this could go off.
Yeah, no, this is easy. Humble, smart,
humble, smart, and hungry.
Yeah, those are the 3. But let's define that in the carpenter world. I think humility is huge. First thing I was taught the first day I picked up a hammer and I started working on a construction field when I was 25 years old is my foreman, or the owner of the company, but he was also like a foreman / superintendent too. He told me, hey, look at these old guys. And I look over, a couple 50 and 60-year-olds. He said, don't ever be like them. I was like, oh, what do you mean? Like older? And he said, no, man, they think they know everything. Like, because he's like, I think in his 40s and he's still trying to teach them, but they're not trying to hear it because they've, they think they know everything. He said, look, if I can give you anything, just always be open and ready to learn, because carpentry just keeps evolving. There's always something to learn. There's always something. Just take the good from everything, man. He's like, just constantly be humble. And I kept that with me. And I try to teach that to people that I work with and try to pour that into the company. And I think that's a healthy thing for a carpenter, for a tradesman, is just don't think you know it all, man. We got to kill pride in the culture of construction, because this pride thing is killing the culture of construction. We can't move forward if everyone's trying to hoard information, or nobody wants to learn the next thing, or everyone thinks they can install everything, or everyone thinks they're the best installer. We're not going to move forward. So I think number 1 is humble yourself. Let's grow together. There's always something to learn. Things keeps changing. We've had carpenters that clash with the whole technology thing, because I'm this 30-year-old that brought in this software, to the industry, that we, connect everybody just by using apps and, all the stuff. And, the old timers are like, man, I don't know how to do that. But you know how to build a house. Yeah. You don't know how to press send and upload a picture on an app, but you know how to build a house. So, okay. Yeah. The humility needs to be there, man, so we all can grow. There's the apps and the technology. That's just another tool. Let's learn how to use it, in the trades world, just be ready to learn and keep growing with your trade, because this younger generation is going to weed you out, and I would hate that, because we need the elders. They have so much craftsmanship and skill that the younger generation needs, so both ways, both guys, we all need to be humble. That's like the big one. Hungry, that's just like, do you have that Rocky, the boxer from the movie Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, Rocky Balboa? Do you have that fight in you to, show up to work on time, to, work hard through the day, all day, just constantly pushing, wanting to be the best version of yourself, to put in the best product, to constantly have that strive to grow as a carpenter? I think that's huge for my number 2.
With the hungry part, sorry, Rich. Particularly for construction, you have to physically be able to. Not able, but you gotta have that tenacity in.
You have to have that. You have to have that push and fight, because it's a physical world. It's a physical. Whether you're a man or a woman in the field, like you can't come and just think you're going to be lax for the day. You have to be in shape. You got to eat right. You got to, you see a lot of construction guys, smoking cigarettes all day and eating big fat plate lunches. We got to cut that out of construction, because you're not going to survive either. ATN is setting a new standard of excellence, and healthy is the new mindset construction carpenter guys have to have, if you want to survive this trade. Be healthy, and healthy will help you be hungry, right? Because if you keep filling yourself up, you ain't gonna be hungry, you're gonna be lazy.
Or sleepy, Connect attack.
So being smart is the last one. Just constantly learn. Your capacity of what you can do really will set you apart as well. So constantly go on YouTube, talk to your elders or those who've been in the trade longer, constantly learn, fill yourself up with knowing how to do things and how to do them right. Try to just constantly learn new tools, buy a new tool. So just growing your capacity and your tool level and your knowledge level and the application level, I think is huge. So those are the three main things in a carpenter that I would say to help you excel to next level is just, if you're coming into the trade and you're like, man, what are the three things ATN says to do? This is it. Humble yourself.
Yeah.
Go on YouTube. Learn everything you touch, go on YouTube and study. You got to go through at least 3 years of going on YouTube every night, Monday through Friday, and just keep learning. You just have to. This is a trade of capacity.
Right.
You either have it or you don't, and then stay healthy so you can perform. Sunday nights, don't drink. You go to sleep on time. You staying hungry is doing your laundry over the weekend and not coming in with last minute clothes. Going to all these kind of things play a big part in being a carpenter or a tradesman. So it'll set you apart.
Awesome.
That's it, man.
Yeah. So those are the three things we look for carpenters as well.
Yeah, if anybody's looking, man, we hire I think 5 carpenters a month, so we're constantly growing.
Yes, we are growing. And if you know anyone,
yeah, send them this way. Apply. So cool.
All right, awesome, guys. That's gonna wrap it up for episode 11. Rich.
Yeah, we are in the boat. We are getting down today.
Crazy. And to the next 11.
To the next 11. Let's do this.
Actually, Rich, is there anything coming up for us this week or?
Yeah, we are in the ATN All Things New world. We are closing up 3 big new home projects. So this summer we're gonna have some fun picture video releases of just products that we finally finished. Our projects are getting larger, so the sharing of pictures are not as immediate as usual, but this summer is going to be exciting. We have 3 commercials that are going to be airing on Hawaii News Now, and Coffee and Carpentry second episode is going to be releasing next month. So we're just super pumped. A lot of big things coming up, in the company and in the production world. So it's going to be cool.
Yeah, well, thanks for rocking with us, guys, and see you at episode 12.
Let's do this.
Shoots.
I come from a poor family, yeah,